Okay, today we're going to be looking at the periodic table, and you'll need some colored pencils and your periodic table chart that you got in class. And we're going to color some areas and mark up our periodic table in different ways to show different types of elements. So make sure you have colored pencils and a pencil or an ink pen of some sort with you available before we start. Okay? So one of the things we're going to mark off are the noble gases or inert gases, and that is the column that is on the far right. We're just going to kind of color that in. Pick a light colored pencil so you can still read the numbers and the letters and the symbols. You know, on the periodic table they have all the elements and the symbols, 2-letter symbols or the 1-letter symbols. And if you notice, the first letter is always capitalized and the second letter is always lowercase. That's just the way that they write symbols for elements. So we're going to label this column the noble gases. Okay. And then let's give hydrogen some special attention, because hydrogen, if you recall from our astronomy unit, is the most abundant element in the entire universe. And it is a gas, and it's one of the most reactive elements known. Okay? Now, we have this area on our periodic table, this zigzag line. So use like a thick marker or something to make the line stand out, like that. So along this zigzag line that you drew, pick a different color, shade in boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, and astatine. These particular ones touch the zigzag line, and they are kind of like the dividing line between the metals and the non-metals. So this area over here in between the noble gases on the right and this zigzag line, these ones that I'm going to shade here in green are what we call the non-metals. They're not the gases, they're not the metals, they're non-metals. So I'm going to shade them in. Make sure you can still see the letters and the numbers, because you'll need those things to refer to later when we start making chemical equations with the symbols. Okay, so that area up there in the green, non-metals. And if you want to make yourself a key, you know, you can do that too. That's another way to distinguish them, is just have yourself a little color code key for everything. And the ones that we've marked here, these elements have characteristics of some of the non-metals, and they have some characteristics of these metals. So they're kind of in between a nonmetal and a metal. That's why they make up the dividing line, often called the zigzag line. And if you look at periodic tables or look up chemistry and the elements on the periodic table, you'll run into a couple of different names for these. Semimetals is one term, and some places they're called metalloids. I guess it just depends on how old your resource is, but they're still both referring to the elements that are here in yellow that are marked along the zigzag line, and everything else from there over is a metal. Okay, so that leaves everything over here, and all this stuff over here are called metals. So we have a lot of metals. Some metals are useful for different applications, like copper is often used to make wires. So when you plug something in, you have a black cord usually, but inside of that black cord is copper wire. Nickel, another metal, often used to make nickels. A lot of people think pennies are made of copper, and they used to be made of copper. But nowadays, copper's gotten a little more expensive, so if they made a penny out of pure copper, it would be worth more than a penny, because copper's more expensive nowadays. So now they usually have some other metal inside the penny and then just do a light coating of copper on the outside of it, often called electroplating. Sometimes you think gold is really valuable. You find a piece of jewelry, you think it's made out of gold, and then you'll find out, well, it's just gold plating. Just the outside of it looks gold, and on the inside of it is some other cheaper metal. Alright, so we have a lot of metals. Whew. Lots of metals. Color all that in. Metals. Okay. Now, one of the things about periodic tables and the way that it's arranged, they're often put into special groups based on the columns that they are in. And they are often put into special arrangements based on the period which they are in, which are the rows. And we're just going to talk about a few of the groups, and we're going to focus on this group here. We're just going to call it Group 1. Group 1, and we're going to call those alkali metals. Alkali metals. They're called alkali metals because they react with water to form alkaline solutions. Note, though, that even though hydrogen is in group 1, it is not an alkali metal. That's why it has that special coloring, because it's not really part of this group. They just put hydrogen out there by itself because it's so special. Okay? And then over here, the next column over is group 2. I'm going to put that up here. Group 2. And these are called alkaline earth. Metals. Alkaline earth metals. They have properties that are similar to those in group 1, but are slightly less reactive. So these metals over here in group 1, they are the most reactive metals. Sodium is really cool. Do a YouTube search on sodium reaction, and you'll find all kinds of videos where they take a little piece of sodium, stick it in water, and it's like, whoa, it's just like crazy. It's got purple flames, it's sparking, it's on fire. Sodium and water, no good. Don't play with that at home. But if you take sodium and react it with some chlorine over here, you get sodium chloride, which is known as table salt. You can sprinkle it on your food and eat it. That's how crazy chemistry is. Something by itself, dangerous, mix it with something else, it's safe to eat. Crazy. Okay, let's mark another group, this one way over here. I'm just going to put 17, group 17 on it. These are called the halogens. Halogens. And the elements in group 17 are known as the halogens because they easily form negative ions, and they're also called basic salts. They make salts. So like if you take something from here, this column, and mix it with something from this column over here, you get a type of a compound called a salt. Okay? Remember, these ones over here are noble gases. They're also known as inert gases. They don't really want to react with anything. I guess they think they're too good for everybody else on the periodic table, so they just want to be by themselves. But this column and this column are very reactive, and they react well with each other. Okay? And then this column over here, group 2, it's the second most reactive, and they react well with these things over here too. Just not as much as column 1. Now, this section of metals here, remember that's the largest type of element, are the metals. And then you have special types of metals like the alkali earth and alkali metals. And you've got the halogens, which is a combination of nonmetals and one metalloid or semi-metal. Now there's a whole lot of other things about the periodic table, such as valence or valence electrons and ionic charges, but we will go over those and we'll mark up more things on our periodic table as we get deeper into our chemistry unit. So what I want you to do with your periodic table, make sure you have folded it in half and put your paste or glue there, tape, and get that in your notebook because you are going to be using this a lot during the chemistry unit. See you in class.